What's up YouTube? I'm Giancarlo, welcome to my channel, and in this video I'll be showing you how I was able to remove my manual transmission off my 6-speed 3.8 liter Eclipse. Stay tuned. So I just want to say a few things, and first of them is this was my first time doing this big of a job on a car or any vehicle really, and it took forever. I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of problems because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just following a guide, some forums and like YouTube videos, but this proves that with enough drive and patience you can accomplish anything. And my car is working perfectly fine. I haven't had a problem since putting the transmission back, so it's been great. And that also explains why this video is so long, because I was inexperienced. I showed all the things that I did, the things that I experienced, the good and the bad. And basically this video is just very technical because I showed everything. And lastly, I used a lot of tools, like everything, but the main I made a list here. Main thing really is you need your basic tools: screwdrivers, flatheads, your sockets, and especially a size 32 because you have to remove your axles, and the axles are getting held on by your castle nuts, and those are, well, for my vehicle, for this vehicle, the Eclipse GT, it's a size 32 castle nut, so you're gonna need that. You need a breaker bar because that's your best friend here. Ratchets, wrenches, electric tools help a lot too. And you might need a blowtorch. I don't know if you live in a snowy state like where I live in Minnesota, you're gonna have a lot of those problems. Well, depends if you keep it like, you know, in the garage or something. I just leave mine outside because I don't have enough, or I don't have space. And you need jack stands, obviously, because you lift the car up, you're moving the transmission from the bottom. That's what I did. You need, what did I put here? You need extensions. Extensions help a lot of hard to reach places, and a swivel also, those help. You need a buddy, and I think the most important part you're gonna need is a transmission jack or a hoist of some sort, because that transmission was heavy. You can get away with not having one, like what I did. I'll show you in the video too how I did it, but that took a while. I wish I had a transmission jack or a hoist because that would have made everything much easier. I also forgot to mention you're going to need a universal camshaft pulley holder because removing the flywheel, if you don't have something to hold the camshaft, it's going to keep on spinning when you're trying to remove the bolts. So you're going to need something to hold the camshaft so it doesn't spin. And you're going to need your torque wrench, foot-pounds and inch-pounds, so you guys should get that too. I forgot, last thing, I also made a guide tutorial on how to remove the transmission, actually, specifically for the 3.8 liter Eclipse 6-speed. So here's a thing I'll be commentating on a video because some things I didn't really speak, and the video will be a little bit everywhere, but I arranged it to where it should make sense and closely follow to the guide. So enough of me talking, like finally enough. Let's start the video. Okay, so what I did to start is I removed the intake box, as you can see right there, the battery tray, and the metal tray underneath, and there's 3 bolts holding that. They're all size 12 millimeters. So as you can see right there, 1, 2, 3. Then after that, since I'm changing the slave cylinder, I took out the brake fluid for it. if you take out this filter right here, because if you have this filter, it blocks this one part, this one opening for to go in your clutch, to go in your master cylinder, then do your slave cylinder. So if you're having like spongy clutch problems, check to see if there is fluid in that part in your reservoir. And keep in mind that my vehicle is the Eclipse GT V6 manual. Set the car also, so I don't have to bend over so much. And I actually did it without the jacks, and my backside would hurt a bit after a while. But you know, both sides. Jacks right there, jacked it up, and it makes it so much easier to work and less strain on your back. So next thing I did was took off the clutch linkage, and the only thing holding it really was a washer and these cotter pins. So it was the washer was on top, cotter pin, and then pull it out, it just pops off. And this one also, washer, cotter pin, you see. And I decided to put it back so I don't have to worry about where I put it later. But after you take these off, then this thing can just slide right off. And this part right here will stay, and the only thing that should really come off is this. And then after that, there's three 12mm bolts here. It's off to the side, but you can see the holes. There's one right here, and then there's like a bracket part right here. And this hole, let me get it real quick. This goes like right here. So, this on the side. And that's for that part. Now this is not attached to the bell housing. And next thing is the line connecting the slave cylinder to the master cylinder. But there is a pin right here. What I did, I used a flathead, and then kind of just pry it out, and then use pliers. And then once you get this out, you can just pop this up. It takes a little bit of force, and do that in the back. There's also 12mm bolt back here, and this whole line connecting your slave cylinder to the master cylinder is now not connected to the bell housing. So here you're going to disconnect two transmission sensors. So this is the front one, and I'm just showing you where it's connected to right there. Kind of just pop it out. And the second one is on the rear side. You don't have to unscrew anything, it's just unclip it and it'll come off. This is the metal tray. There's only 3 bolts holding it. You're gonna need to remove this so you can have access to that front transmission bolt. And this is that front transmission bolt right there. And there's 3 of them. The other 2 is in the rear. You can see it right there. The next thing is the top bolt of the rear motor mount. You're gonna need a cheater bar. Well, you're gonna need a socket, and then a ratchet, and then the cheater bar so you can have some leverage, because it is a tight space back there. And then this is the top bell housing bolts. You're going to loosen it, but not take it off. You're just gonna loosen it to a point where you can loosen it by hand, if that makes sense. And this is the other 2 on the rear side. And for me, they're in they're in a tough spot to just use a socket and a ratchet, so you're gonna need an extension. And then from the front, and then just facing downwards, is your front motor mount. There's gonna be 2 bolts holding that to the cross member. The tough one about this is that rear bolt holding it. You're gonna need a swivel and then an extension, and then your ratchet, and then you can get that bolt out. And from the bottom, That is your front exhaust manifold connecting to your Y pipe. That is a size 17 socket holding them together. And then from your Y pipe back, you have more bolts holding the exhaust, and it's connecting to the exhaust pipe all the way to the back of your vehicle, and then this one to your rear exhaust manifold. And all those exhaust piping out, except the rear exhaust manifold. You don't need to take that off actually. And this is just the exhaust brackets. You're gonna take that off too.
Size 17.
So you can have access or more space removing your passenger side axle. And after that, you're gonna remove your bottom bolt from your rear transmission mount. And it's the only thing really to remove that bolt is a wrench. But what I did here is have another wrench kind of extend it so you have leverage and more torque to get that bolt out because it's tight. And once that bolt is loose, you can't get it off, but you do have enough space to where it doesn't connect to the transmission anymore. But it's a weird type of awkward thing. And then after all that's done, you're gonna remove your passenger side bolts holding the inner shaft assembly.
Size 14.
Then I removed the cross member. There's two bolts holding it from the front towards the front bumper, the two holding the motor mount, and then the two bolts that you have to go underneath to remove it. And I showed the two already, and then I don't think I had a clear video of it, but there's two bolts back there, and then the two front motor mount bolts right there. I'm facing the front of the engine. Your starter is just going to be right here. There's going to be a heat shield covering your starter. I had to remove that to get access to these bolts, but there's going to be two bolts holding it. One right there, and then this one. This bolt is going to be facing this way, this side of the transmission, or yeah. So those weren't too hard, and I believe, I wasn't sure, I thought this was part of the starter, but it's not. But it looks like it's connected to transmission, so I think I had to remove that either way. So I guess I'll wait at the end to see if that really mattered. Then I removed the caliper bolts in the back, and they're size 17 millimeter, and then I just put it off the side right there. Just had a bucket, or you can have a bungee cord and just tie it around the strut. And I removed the rotors so we can have more room to work with. And then remove that heat shield, by the way. There's only one bolt holding it, it's like a size 10. And for the outer tie rod, I removed the nut and then just slightly tapped it with like a hammer or mallet or whatever, and then it got out. Obviously it's kind of rusty, so I sprayed some WD-40 to get it out loose. The strut bolts I removed to get the CV axles off, because once you get those strut bolts, it'll be like that, and then you have all the space and room in the world to get your CV axles out. And this is what it would look like with majority of everything apart right before you take off the CV axles. The only thing really holding this is just that one strut bolt, and after that, pop off. Then removing the bell housing bolts, they're easy to identify because they're connected to the transmission. And this one's just the most rear one. And then you're gonna support your transmission and the engine. And what I did was I didn't have any transmission jack or engine hoist, so I used my creativity and used a floor jack and some planks to support the transmission, because the only thing holding this after removing that bottom bell housing bolts is the top bell housing bolts. So after removing the bottom bell housing bolts, the top bell housing bolts can finally be removed, and that should be the last thing to remove. And the only thing really supporting the transmission is the floor jack that I have with the planks, and here's just a close-up of how that looks here. After a while, you do have to go in a downwards side-to-side motion because of how the transmission is holding itself on its transmission mount on the side, and how the output shaft is connected towards the engine. It does come out, and as you can see here, my release bearing is on the bottom of the bell housing, and my bell housing is dirty inside. This is the transmission out of the vehicle, and this was heavy, so I recommended a transmission jack or hoist of some sort. But yeah, it's really dirty. I think the previous owner had a leak, and that one's just, there's a reason for that too. But, and this is after the cleanup. Tried my best making it spotless. It took a long time, but it was worth it. The inside too. And this is the tool you're gonna need to hold that camshaft in place, because if you don't have this tool, you're gonna have a hard time removing your flywheel. And the reason why my bell housing, or inside the bell housing, was so dirty because of this. My clutch disc is destroyed. It's all torn up. Removing the flywheel, there is 8 bolts holding it, and you'll need to use a size T50 Torx screw. Then my flywheel all messed up, and me just cleaning the surface over that flywheel was. You can actually remove that shield right there. There's only like a bolt holding it and 2 lips on the sides, but I decided not to. Just cleaned it as it was. Sprayed some brake cleaner, and just trying to make it clean and spotless. Flywheel and me torquing it. I do have the torque specs in the manuals below in the description, so check that out. The clutch disc, the part that's extruding out goes towards the flywheel, and you don't actually need an alignment tool because the flywheel has a lip, and you can just put your clutch disc there and it just stays put. And placing the clutch cover. I will actually do a review on this also, so stay tuned for that. But this isn't just a regular clutch kit, so. It is a size 12. Tightening up the bolts of the clutch cover, and make sure they're tight, because worst thing that can happen is you driving and then these bolts getting loose every time by vibrations. And don't forget to torque it too. And then the slave cylinder is simple enough, just 2 bolts. Take it off. So I don't think showed a video of removing the slave cylinder adapter there's just a pin holding it. Just pop it back, pop it out, and the slave cylinder just removes pretty easily. Also, before you put the new one, it's good to lubricate the splines. And it's just me cleaning the surface. Surface of the slave cylinder too. And then torquing the bolts, and it is in inch-pounds. And the slave cylinder adapter, simple enough. Just the opposite of removing it. And then once you install it, make sure to pull it, and that's when the clip will click, if that's how you know that slave cylinder adapter is secured. That's what it looks like, lining up that transmission back. It looks so nice with that red clutch cover from the top. Man, this took forever, but you can do it. You just need a lot of help and floor jacks and creativity and all that. But this is how I put that heavy transmission back. And to fully have the transmission seated properly, there is these two like lips it's supposed to, I guess you could say, like connect to. And this one's the main front, and the other one is right in the back, right there. So you push those first, and then your transmission will sit correctly. Putting all the clutch linkage back and everything from the top, and putting the cross member back. And then that's that front motor mount, and that's starter right there. That's where the bolts go underneath it, on top of it. And the exhaust pipings, the Y pipe connected back, and exhaust manifold. And after that is the bleeding of the clutch lines and a vacuum pump, which makes the process way faster. But you can do it without a vacuum pump also. Just step on the clutch pedal a few times, and also wash your reservoir. Make sure that's always full and doesn't run out. Clutch line all the way to the slave cylinder right there. And the airbox putting back together. And then finally the startup. There you go. So it had a rough startup at first, but after I drove it a while, and sounded normal. Started up fine, everything working properly. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe down below. I also have a previous video of my gutted cats, which sounds really cool. You guys should check that out. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time.